Welcome to a realm where personal growth meets expansive spirituality and where we're not just scratching the surface. We're diving deep, widening our perspectives, and having a darn good time doing it. This is the Enlightened Podcast, and I am your host, Jen Hamilton. You'll enjoy an infusion of motivation, empowerment, and inspiration that will resonate in every aspect of your life. Expect captivating stories, heartfelt musings, and my own personal experiences. But that's not all. I'm bringing awe-inspiring individuals to the table, so get ready to meet some remarkable souls whose wisdom and stories will leave you spellbound. No topic is off limits here. Brace yourself for raw authenticity, unfiltered vulnerability, and yes, the occasional splash of explicit language. We're delving into the realms of the esoteric, mystical, and the woo-woo, unafraid to explore the extraordinary. So if you are ready to venture beyond the surface, to explore the depths of your soul, and to awaken the magic of life, if your heart says yes, then hit that play button and let the Enlightened Podcast guide you on this remarkable expedition. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Enlightened Podcast. I am your host, Jen, and my very special guest today is Shervin from the Hidden Innuendos podcast. This is a podcast that talks only about heartbreak, dating, and love. And I had the pleasure of being a guest on his podcast recently, and I invited him onto the Enlightened Podcast to talk about all things dating, love, relationships, and everything in between. This was such a fun and lighthearted interview, both of us sharing stories about our dating experiences, giving each other advice, and being able to dive into topics that a lot of people refuse to go. So I know that you're going to love it. Stay tuned. And without further ado, let's dive in. Shervin, welcome to the Enlightened Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm doing well now. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Where in the world are you?
I have no idea. You tell me. What day is it?
Well, this is the thing. I know, right? We're in completely different time zones, different days. I'm coming to you live from the future, technically, because it's Wednesday here.
You are. Well, if you're the future, then fuck, the future is beautiful, I have to say.
Oh, you're too smooth. You're too smooth.
Well, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your podcast, because obviously you're a fellow podcast host. We're doing a bit of a swap. I've already been on your podcast. You're coming on my podcast. Tell us about Hidden Innuendos and tell us a bit about what brought you to doing your podcast.
Yeah. Well, to answer your first question, I'm calling you from Southern California, Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the beautiful Sunshine State. But no, Hidden Innuendos is a podcast that talks about heartbreak, dating, and love. I went through a really bad breakup a couple years ago that pretty much left me shattered as a grown man. And as I got better as far as self-reflecting, I decided to open up this podcast to help others who desperately need to know exactly that they're not alone when it comes to heartbreak.
It's so true, isn't it? Like, I don't know about you, but at my age, like you've been there, done that, got the fridge magnet at least once, like it happens. And I think it's, one of those parts of life where you go through it and, it can make you or break you. Generally, it breaks you first and then it makes you. I've always come out of heartbreak, a completely different person. Like it's the opportunity to really dive deep and go through this self-reflection process. Get re in touch with myself, get to know myself, who I am outside of a relationship, what I enjoy doing, what my desires are as a human, navigating life on my own. And I think it's a chance. It's almost like an awakening within itself. Would you agree like you go through this process and it's just it throws you into something where you've got no choice to do it either. You don't just be like pop it in the calendar like, okay, cool. So May 2025, I'm just going to go through some heartbreaks. I'm just going to clear my schedule to have a breakdown.
Yeah, and I'm sure when you said that you went through a heartbreak, it's never fun. It never is. But here's the great thing about it though, is that you actually get to see yourself in a whole different level, a whole different life. And when you come out of that shell, you can look back and say, I can't believe that I did this impossible journey. Right? Didn't you feel that way too?
Oh yeah, like especially I think the hardest one that I ever went through was breaking up with the father of my kids, and that was like 6 and a
Sure.
bit years ago. That one, because I mean there was kids involved with that one. Like that was like we had the house, we were engaged, you know, we had the kids, we had like the future essentially right in front of us. And I kind of pulled the rug and I was like, I can't do this. This is not sparking joy. I'm going in a different direction. Are you coming with me? Nope. Okay, cool. I'm out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and even though it was an amicable, split, we had to, go through assets and, divide those up, work out, a parenting agreement, like all of the facets that come with separation through a family. At the end of the day, like what I kept coming back to was like, I love you, but I love me more.
Right.
And I wanted to see who I was outside of that relationship. I wanted to be in the fullest expression of myself. And I felt like my relationship at the time, I couldn't be all of that. And so it was a complete recalibration. Like I'm talking like I was living a double life for a little while. I had 2 Instagram accounts because I had like Mum Jen, I was like posting with the kids and it was all like doing this stuff. And then when I went out partying again to essentially meet people and have a good time on the weekends, I didn't have the kids. I was like a different person. I was like, I had to hide myself essentially because I didn't want to be judged for, being this, this fun party person while my kids were not with me. There was a lot of shame around who I was. And it's funny, I remember I think it was like the first time I went out to a bar with a girlfriend and I met this guy and he said to me, he goes, "Oh, what's your Instagram? I'll slide into your DMs." And I'm like, slide into my what now? Like I didn't even know what that meant. And I thought to myself, I'm like, fuck, I don't want anyone to know that I've got kids. Like if I'm just meeting someone at a bar, like I don't
Sure.
want my identity to be known. Like I just want to pick up at a bar, do you know?
Yeah.
And so it was like, all right, I'm going to have to create a separate Instagram account. So I literally had 2 going for over a year and I lived this double life. And it was, there was so much of my life and who I wanted to be was on the down low.
Mhm.
And it was, there came a point where I was able to just go, fuck this. I'm doing it my way and this is who I am. And I had a lot of work to get through, through the shame, through the guilt. The guilt was massive. Not only was the guilt like within myself, but the guilt and the anger projected at me from my ex and from my family as well. And so like there was all these elements to it. And then it was like getting in touch with who I was, because the person that I was then was so different to the person I was before that relationship. Because I mean I had kids now and I had to I couldn't just be like selfish and live my life and go and travel or do the things that you do when you break up with someone.
Right.
I had to still work. I had to still like navigate life with kids, and I had to keep these other like 2 little, potato humans alive. you
Yeah.
know? So there was a lot to it. So there was a huge recalibration, and it took me a couple of years to find myself. I'm not going to lie. Like it was a fucking journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just not easy for a single parent, let alone a
Mm,
single mom to raise 2 kids. So I applaud you for that. And I think our listeners
thank
should
you.
definitely applaud you for that too, because that shit is not easy.
I need one of those buttons where it like gives you like an applaud thing. Should build that in.
Right.
And do you know what? Like I love that I went through that process because I came out the other end so
Yeah.
much stronger and so much more in touch with myself. And I truly believe like the shit show that was that separation was all part of my personal evolution that's got me onto the path that I'm at now. Like I wouldn't be where I'm at in my life now not having gone through that. And I think that's a reminder, like for anyone that's going through the process of heartbreak or has been in it, or like, questioning things or having, some kind of existential crisis. It's like, these are the things that are going to shape our existence, really.
Yeah. Let me ask you this though, if you don't mind me asking. If the same situation happened, let's say like we fast forward 2 years from now, right? You're in this relationship now, and all of a sudden there happens to be a breakup. Do you think that you would be able to retract the same footsteps that got you better, or do you think you would probably have the Gen 2.5 version?
Look, great question. There's probably so many elements to this because I went through a
Yeah.
separation last May. And so basically the timeline, I split up with the kid's dad about 6 and a bit years ago. And I wasn't in another relationship for another 3 years, and that was a 3-year relationship. So the person that I became in that 3-year gap and then stepped into the relationship with my, most previous ex that ended last year, that was a whole new version of me because of what I had gone through.
Yeah.
What I have experienced in the last, 3, nearly 4 years since I got into that relationship with my most previous ex, who I am on the other side of that is completely different who I was stepping out of the relationship with the kid's dad. And, there's been so much more like self-awareness, personal development, spiritual development. So the person that I came out as on the other side was so much more aware and connected to self, and just knowing that everything was going to be okay. Like, even though it stung for that relationship to end last year, what I did know is that I was going to be okay. Like, there was never any point where I was questioning, whether I could do this or not. It's like, okay, there's a process that I've got to go through. I have to feel all the feels. I get to find this new version of myself. And I kept looking for the parts that I was excited for, that I could step into on my own, and be with the grief. Like, I grieved so fucking hard for the
Yeah.
relationship and the future that was no longer going to exist, that had once, been desired in my mind. It was like, okay, cool. We're building this life together. We got this to look forward to, that to look forward to. When that's all taken away, it throws you. Like, you've got to recalibrate and go, okay, whoa. Okay, what have I got to sort out now? What have I got to like come back into doing for myself now? What decisions do I have to make on my own? I used to make, decisions with my partner. What is it that I get to decide? But then, like, for me, the fun part was like decorating my house how I wanted to decorate it. And
Yeah.
like eating dinner on my watch, basically, like not having to worry about cooking for someone else. I could
Yeah.
go out, I could just like have avocado on toast for dinner because I didn't have to worry about cooking for someone else. My
You're following the
weekends.
beat to your own drum.
Yeah. Like, just deciding what I wanted to do for myself, but doing it with such like ultimate authentic self-love and awareness that I get to design my life how I want to. And through that process, it was a beautiful process because I understood
Sure.
myself on such a deeper level. And by having that time alone and that space to just be with myself, I got to start reading books again and watching TV shows that I didn't watch with my partner at the time. And do you know what? I mean, tell me I'm old without telling me I'm old. Like, what I got excited for was like buying new linen, like buying new sheets for the bed and new towels. And like, they're pink. They're like
Oh
dusty
my
pink.
God.
And I'm like, I'm having pink sheets because I'm on my own and this is what we do.
This may sound like a very naive question, so I apologize. Is there a Costco in Australia? You have a
There
Costco?
is. Yes.
There is.
Yes.
Okay. The reason why I asked is because I actually just today, as a matter of fact, I went and bought some new linens, some new towels, because again, you got to get rid of the bad juju that happened with your ex, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's in the past. You got
Mm-hmm.
to burn those towels, burn those sheets, throw away everything. And I mean everything. Don't think that, oh, well, this is such a nice couch. It is. Sell it, get rid of it, start fresh. And I love how you said that because you're just lingering on. Like, you're just hoping that one day that person's going to call you and come back and share those same TV shows that you watched, eat the same foods that you guys cooked together, sit on that same couch that you laid on. I feel like when people say it's over, look at it as a bright thing, as a really way of
Mm.
happiness. Like, it is over. It's over for you, but for me, my life just started. So I'm
Yes.
celebrating two birthdays, the one that my mom gave me and the one that you just broke my heart about. So thank you.
I love that. I love that. I love that like perception of it because it's so important to have a way of thinking about it that's from a really nourishing place.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you get caught in like the fucked upness of it.
Yeah.
You can spiral down and go down, or you can go, okay, how is this going to best serve me? And what is it that I get to create from here? And so the way I have designed my life that I love more than ever from when I was in that previous relationship, and who I get to be in this world is very different. And it's only through reflecting on who I was in that relationship, I realized how fucking small I was playing, and
Yeah.
how self-abandoning I was at the best of times as well. And so I didn't know that at the time. When I was in that relationship, I didn't have awareness of that. Like I wasn't sitting going, am I, abandoning myself? I'm like, oh no, I'm doing anything for love. And that's who I was at the time. But now that I've stepped out of that and done the growth work, and hindsight's one of those funny things, isn't it? Like you look back and you're like, oh, okay, I see the bits now that, I see where the wheels were falling off.
Yeah.
And you've got to meet yourself with love and kindness and grace and forgiveness, because you can only do with with what you have and what like you can't be like, oh, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner,
Yeah.
because if you'd seen it sooner you would have had awareness of it then.
Do you know what's funny too is that we focus so much on the positive side, right? The aftermath, which is great. However, we do have to set some respect to the darkness, right? And what I
Mm.
mean by that is how you have accomplished getting out of that cave, right? For me, I can just tell you this truthfully, that when I was laying on the couch or when I was sleeping at night, I would wake up hysterically in cold sweats, thinking that she was with another guy, which that may have been the case. But the dark feeling that I had for myself really put me in the lowest point of no return. And I felt like I really had nowhere to go. But here's the thing, though, is that you have to embrace the darkness. You really have to break yourself down completely to the point to where you're just bone, right?
Mm.
Now, there's a big difference between doing that and just letting yourself go and end your life, which I wanted to a couple of times. And I think that's pretty normal. I think it's very common for people to have that notion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not good enough for this person, i.e., maybe I should just kill myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you that when I was thinking about that, I had to take a step back and say, wait a minute, hold on. We've got 2 kids. I have 2 kids that I have to help on this planet. What does that make me if I leave this planet just for a girl? It makes me a coward, right? So
Mm.
going back to the darkness, I broke myself down completely. I let myself be very vulnerable. I felt sorry for myself. I allowed myself to feel sorry for myself, listening to sad songs, watching sad movies, crying hysterically, to let it out completely. And then
Mm-hmm.
what happens is that you start to replenish yourself with the positive aspects that you provide not only to that person that left you, but also to others who are counting on you, like your kids,
Mm.
friends, family, coworkers, right? And as you start to build those steps up, you can definitely look back and say, this was worth it. This was necessary. This is the plan of heartbreak. It's to see how low you can go. And once you do
Mm.
reach the deep end, how beautiful is it when you get out and you can say, I fucking mastered it. I mastered heartbreak, and now I am, as I always say, a heartbreak survivor.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Question for you, Shervin.
Just
What's
one?
no, multiple.
Okay, good.
What's your favorite heartbreak song? What did you have on repeat?
Yeah, that is a great question. So there there actually is a country song by a man named Easton Corbin,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called Dance Real Slow.
Mm-hmm.
And that song, when you hear it, and I know for any of you listeners who like country, but it's a beautiful song. This actually was a song that I wanted to play if I was ever going to marry that girl.
Mm.
So I would actually play that repeatedly, right? I will let that sink in my head because like I said, I wanted to get out of my system, right? And once
Mm.
I did, now if I can fast forward 2 years ago, like right now, I listen to it as a song that I really enjoy instead of a
Mhm.
song that I resemble with her.
I like that. What about movies? What did you watch? What's your sad go-to movie?
You're gonna love this, and this was like honest to God truth. I remember this was the week that I was going through my heartbreak. I lay down on the couch, and on Netflix, the first thing that popped up was Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I was like, "You've got to be fucking kidding me!" So I like literally was like, "Let's play it." So I was literally watching, and I was actually got a little high because I like to smoke weed. Sorry, is it okay if I say that?
Yeah, go for
Okay,
it.
okay.
We don't use a filter around here. Go
Oh,
nuts.
fucking awesome! I love it. I got really stoned because I just wanted to escape, right? I was watching that movie and I wasn't crying. I was actually laughing because I was laughing how very, very true and how like relative if this was to my situation. right?
Mm.
So that was my favorite movie. It still is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I love it. So my song for the breakup was I've got it here, Someone You Loved by Lewis Capaldi. Do you know that one?
No,
It's a beautiful song. It's a really sad song.
can you? I want you to text it to me. I want to hear that tonight.
I will send it to you. And my
Yeah,
movie, I don't think I had a movie, but I would watch like movies about how I wanted to feel like oh, Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson. I mean, like their chemistry is ridiculous, but How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Like, and then I'd watch movies or shows and I'd be like, I just want that. And then, oh my God, over Christmas time, I binged Virgin River on Netflix. Have you seen
I
that?
don't think I have.
Oh
I've
my
seen
God,
it, but
it's
I don't think I've seen
ridiculous.
it though.
So the one of the main characters on there, Jack, like everyone just needs a Jack in their life. And it was just like I would watch it and I'd be like, that's how I want to feel. Like
Hmm.
watching that, I'm like, okay, yep, yep. I just give me all the sad stuff. And then like I'd go into the part where I'm like, I don't have that and I'm in lack and I can never have that and I can't even just pack up my life and move to like a country town to like find a man like she just does on the show because I've got kids and I've got my life stuck in Brisbane.
Just wait 10 more years if you
Do
can.
you know the trip that I'm planning, like once the kids are old enough for me to be like, okay, cool, I'm like out of here for a few months. I'm planning like a really big trip because there's definitely more of the world to see. And it is hard with
Yes.
kids. Like it's hard to say, oh yeah, I'm just gonna, nick off overseas for a month. I went overseas last year for 3 weeks and that was I tried to give them a sense of time of how long I would be away for. And because I was there still during that time, they really couldn't comprehend what 3 weeks was. And then by the time I got back after 3 weeks, they're like, don't ever do that again. Like that was too long.
It is a long time, but then again, it's necessary. You definitely work your ass off. You
Yeah.
deserve to take these long holidays.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've got a few trips coming up in the next little while. We might be heading over to Bali soon. We just that's not planned yet. Who knows? There was
Mm,
definitely talk of a few of us meeting up in Bali.
that would
So
be sick. That would be amazing.
yeah,
But
it
you
would
actually
be.
brought up a good point about the Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey about the chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
right? I actually been noticing here, and I've actually had some of my guests here, is that there's a lot of lack of chemistry now, especially when you're walking down the street and there's a person walking opposite side of you. Like, how can we make that energy existent again, right? Like, how can a man who is walking down the street and sees a beautiful woman, how can he provide that chemistry saying, "You're beautiful," in a very non cheesy way, or not being like a douchebag, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's a lot of women who still want to be approached organically.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a question of how can we align that chemistry and let the man be the one to take the lead.
Oh, the man taking the lead. Like, I mean, you're speaking the language. So, and this is a really good question because I was actually reading something in a Facebook group that I'm in the other day, and it was around why men don't. So let's take a look at why it doesn't happen,
Perfect.
because then we can work out how we can make it happen or how we can, invite in curiosity around it essentially. And what I'm understanding is that the reason it doesn't happen is because when it does happen, if someone's been shut down, then they've made an assumption that it's not safe to continue to do that, or that because everyone. Okay, so let's dive into the dating world essentially, because I think this is so relevant for our time. What's happening that I'm seeing in the dating world is that there's so many wounded people in there. So men are wounded by the way women have treated them, and women are wounded by the way men have treated them. So that's an equal playing field
Right.
essentially. And then there's a lot like people like wounded people trying to date is just a recipe for disaster because it's
Hmm.
taking through like your baggage and your shit to someone else and saying, oh, I would like to date you, but I don't trust you. And I was talking to someone this morning about this because they were telling me about someone that they had been talking to on a dating app a little while ago. They hadn't met in person. They had really good chemistry. The conversation was great. However, it came to a point when they were discussing like the dynamics of masculine and feminine, basically. And basically, she was saying, look, all men are guilty until proven innocent, and that's just the way it is. And he's like, hang on a second, in what regard? She's like, all men are really, really bad. And he's like, so by virtue of this, by assumption of this, you're saying that, I'm essentially a rapist until I prove that I'm not. And then she kind of went down the path. It's like, well, yes. And, all women want is to feel safe and to feel secure with a man. And he's kind of like called her out on this and said, well, hang on, the way you're the way you're perceiving me to be, and you're saying you want someone that's keeping you safe, like a good man to keep you safe from the bad men. How do you discern like who's who and how you trust them? And then, because he simply called her out purely out of curiosity, like it was never about a tone where it's like, you're wrong, I want to fight you on this, she came back with every name under the sun for him and calling him like gaslighting, narcissist, misogynistic, like all of these things, because he was like, well, hang on, that's just simply not fair. And from a psychological perspective, I can see where she's wounded. So something's happened to her. She's got some trauma she's experienced there, where someone has she's been hurt basically, and someone has said something and she doesn't know how to handle that or regulate within herself. And he's obviously carrying something where it's like, hang on a second, this is unfair. I don't agree with you. I feel safe enough to display my version of what I think is happening here and bring it up, yet gets his head bitten off. And now he's like, well, I can't talk to women in the same way, because if I disagree with them, I'm going to get called like a misogynist and a narcissist and all of these things. So I think, and that's just one example of it. Like, everyone's just got their baggage and their shit that they're bringing through.
Yeah, but why do we get labeled? And not that I'm taking any man's side here, but in a way I am, because I am a man. So like,
Mm.
if I say something wrong, or if I do something wrong or mistreat a woman, not saying that I do, but if I did, would I be labeled as a narcissist? The reason why I ask is because, remember, during the time of COVID, when it first came out, you broke your leg, COVID. You sneezed, COVID. Right? Like, you got a sprain on your ankle, COVID. Like, it was pretty much you're labeling one thing that just
Mm.
is not even relevant to what that person is doing or what the cause of it is.
Mm.
So when I hear the narcissist and the gaslighting, I get that. I totally understand. You want to label that man for whatever he is, that's fine. But take a step back before you label him as a misogynist pig or narcissist, because you don't know if he really is one, because maybe you just don't know the true definition of what a narcissist is.
100% agree with you. Narcissists, I mean, look, let's just call narcissism the new COVID. Like, it's getting labeled for everything that it's not.
Yeah.
It's not as, it's not as infectious, or maybe it is, but like it's like someone with like true NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. It's not just someone that has a difference of opinion and wants to prove a point. Like, it's just so far removed from that. And I think it's taking away the detriment that actual narcissism has on people by calling everyone a narcissist. And I was watching, this is my toxic trait, I was watching Love is Blind the other day, and there was a bit of a shit show between, oh God, what's her name? Laura and Jeremy. And Laura's just going to town on Jeremy, going, calling him a narcissist. And it's like, he's not. Sure, he made some poor choices. He was very open and upfront without her, and was, very sorry for some actions, that he did. But at no time did he display any narcissistic personality disorder within that space. Yet she's just gone straight for narcissist, because that's just the term that's thrown around. And I think we need to look at this. I think we need to look at how we're labeling people, and not only that, but do some fucking self-reflection in there as well. Like, it's
Yeah.
not necessarily about the other person.
Yeah.
It's about what shit are we carrying around that makes us think that everyone's a bad person.
Yeah. And I've never seen these shows before. The Love is Blind, and there's a couple other shows here that I've heard about. I've never seen these, but I'm sure they're the worst, best thing you've ever seen. Like,
Yes,
okay.
it's my toxic trait to watch them. I love it because I love the psychology of it. Like, that's one of the reasons why I watch it. And look, it's all edited beautifully, to package it up and get ratings. Like, I get how Netflix works.
But see, that's the thing, though, is that the right message that should be sent to people like ourselves, who are trying to do the exact opposite, right? It's like, we're trying to fight the actual good fight, And shows like that are saying, no, 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 this is the actual true way of finding love. And that's being a dramatic asshole and just labeling everyone as a narcissist. But here's the funny thing. It doesn't always mean just because you call someone a narcissist, it doesn't mean it's just a man who's a narcissist. Females are just as guilty as men are.
Yes, I am nodding my head. For those just listening to the audio, I am nodding my head so much here because it's not. And I think men have really got an absolute like pounding in this area recently, and this is probably why they're so scared to approach women, because it's like, oh God, what is she going to throw at me now? You know, men are scared. Like, let's talk about that. Like, do you personally approach women in the street and say, I think you're beautiful? Or do you approach women in bars or at the shopping center or the store, as you guys call it? You know, do you approach women, and how does that go for you? Tell us about your process with that.
So funny you mentioned that. Just last week, I was actually flying from Denver back home to Orange County, and there's this beautiful stewardess or flight attendant. I think that's right. Flight attendant, stewardess.
Yeah, flight attendant.
You catch my drift. She was gorgeous. You know, for me, I was like, she's absolutely beautiful, stunning. So what did I do? I was like, I have to let her know, because one, why not? What do I have to lose? And second, this actually may brighten up her day, knowing that there's at least one person on this terrible flight that actually has something positive to say to me, right? Instead of more chips or would you like a refill on your Coke? So as we were unloading and leaving the plane, I actually kind of took a little slow. That way I can kind of like take my time and approach her the right way. So as I was walking by, I started to slow down. I said, excuse me, I'm so sorry to say this, but I just want to let you know that you are absolutely beautiful. And she didn't say anything. She just looked at me and said, thank you. Thank you.
Aww.
That spoke a million words to me, right? Because again, you have no idea what that person's reaction is going to be. It's not up to you. You can't think for that person. So what are you going to do? Shoot your shot. See if it works. If it doesn't, this is a practice. And actually, there's another story I want to tell you, is that also just today when I was at Costco filling up the gas tank, I actually was trying to talk to this girl, and I don't want you to think that I'm a creep, and I don't want your listeners to think that at all. But again, I consider myself a man who likes to talk to women, because my show is about heartbreak, dating, and love, and I want to get inside women's heads because I want to know what they're thinking. So I think of this as practice, right? In a very non-creepy way. So today when I was filling up the gas tank and she was filling up her car, I actually approached her and I said, how's your day going? And she looked at me and said, good, how about yours? And I said, it was fine, perfect. Wasn't trying to hit on her at all. I was just practicing, right? Because you know why? There's a wedding ring. So I was being respectful, but again, I wanted just to talk to her because there's no one around. And why not? What benefit or what dissatisfaction am I going to get by just saying, hello, how's your day? I'm sure right now she's probably saying, there was a guy who actually asked me how my day was at the gas station. Can you fucking believe that? You know?
Did you have any ulterior between like the stewardess and the chick at we call it the servo? I'm going to call it the servo, the gas station.
What's it called?
Servo, as in short for service station.
Okay.
The servo, yeah.
Servo, okay.
So the chick at the servo.
The chick at the I like it when you say it. It's better when you say it than me.
So the difference between the flight attendant and the chick at the servo is, so what did you have an ulterior motive that, like, underneath you giving a compliment or simply saying hello, did you want more from either of those?
No.
Yeah. So and I get that. However, from a woman's perspective, if that was me working and someone had said that, if I was at the servo and someone said to me, how's your day going? Or I want to let you know that you're really beautiful. If it happened at a bar, no matter where it happens, the first place my mind goes is, no, I will not have sex with you. That's where it goes. Because there's been so many times that I have this belief that men just want sex at the end of the day. They're willing to do anything for it. So there is a belief system within me that exists. So not only a belief system, but there is proof that I have found repeatedly to support that belief system, to perpetuate that belief system, that they just want something from me at the end of the day, to the point where I just kind of shut it down or ignore it, or like I won't make it transactional. I won't ask them how their day's going, because as soon as I start to engage with them, they're like, fuck yeah, she's in, you know? So it's kind of like, and that's my stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, like that's stuff that I'm almost used to as a
Right.
woman of my age, as you know, perhaps how I look, perhaps the way I present myself and my confidence. I think there's men that aren't used to women like me, and so if I give them something, they'll, you know, attempt to take it a lot further, whereas I'm like, I just want to talk to the guy, but he's obviously in his brain going, I'm fucking going to get that in bed. Do you know what I mean? And that's from a woman's perspective.
I get you.
That's the way we show up to a situation, and why it's like, if you want to pass me on the street and call me beautiful, I'll be like, thanks, and keep going, unless I'm interested in, obviously, you know, exchanging in that.
Very funny you mentioned that, because 2 weeks ago I was in Miami with my brother and some friends. We were out to dinner, and this beautiful server, she was actually taking care of us, and she was talking to me. She made eye contact with me, and I wasn't thinking anything at all, right? I was thinking, this is just her job. This is what she does for a living. I shit you not, Jen. When we left, my brother was pissed at me. Not like upset, but he was pissed, irate. He's like, what the fuck? I said, what? Dude, she was totally into you. I was like, how do you know that? He's like, because she was looking at you. She was asking you questions. She was making eye contact with you. I was like, this goes back to what I'm saying. It's like, if it were the other way around, right? Am I hitting on her? No. If I'm just asking her how her day is, she's probably thinking, well, my day's great. But like, the point I'm trying to make is that how do you know? How can you fucking know if you're hitting on someone, if you're just asking them how their day is, right? Does that make me a bad person if I ask her how her day is? No. But he got so pissed off at me that I didn't ask her out or ask her for a number, right? So I guess that kind of goes both ways. Is, do you ask a girl like that for her number, or do you ask a girl who's a flight attendant for a number, right? It can go different ways. So how can you approach that for a man? Like, how can a man approach a server or a flight attendant or a woman pumping gas?
I'm gonna answer your question with a question, Shervin, and I want to know the difference. So, with you just generally giving a compliment, making a statement, asking how someone's day is, how is that different to when you are legitimately hitting on a woman? Tell me what your process is for hitting on someone.
The eyes. My
Mm,
eyes will totally change. My tone will change. My
mhm,
my body will change. And what I mean by that is that I'm going to show the woman that I'm more open. That
mhm,
means I'm going to be a little bit more affectionate. I'm going to put my hand on her. I'm not going
mhm,
to do it in a very sexual way, but it's a very charismatic and a very sensual way, to where she knows this is not just a friend pat. This is more like, I want to get to know you better in a more sexual way, right? And I'm not saying
mhm,
I'm going to have sex with you immediately, but it's more an affectionate way of letting that woman know I am attracted to you.
mm.
And the eyes, obviously, the saying, the eyes don't lie. But I'm not looking at a girl like, hey, let's go fuck right now. But it's to soften up the eyes, to let them know I'm engaged with you. I want to know about you. I want to ask questions,
Mhm.
right?
How do women respond to that? Like, do they know the difference between you just making a statement that they're beautiful or asking how their day is, or are they receptive to the fact that there's a little bit more here? So the eyes get involved, the touch gets involved, and your openness and your energy shifts. Do they know the difference?
They do, and if I can feel that they don't want to play that same game, then I take a couple steps back, right? Because I know either they just are not into me, which is fine. I mean, that shit happens, right? That there's not every woman's gonna like me, and I'm not gonna like every woman, right? That's just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if she feels like there's not an attraction or a chemistry there, I'm gonna take a couple steps back to let them know, all right, let's go back to square one, and let's just be friends, or let's just
Yeah.
be two human beings just having a civil conversation.
Yeah.
But if I see that she is engaged and she is putting her hand on me, or she is looking at me, or saying things or doing things, right? Like, for women, when they put the hand behind their hair, right? I mean, that's true, right? That means that she's showing something. She's showing a sign of her body, right? Her neck,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's the small things like that. And I guess this goes back to practice, right? Is most men, if you don't know how to play the game, practice, but don't be a fucking cheeseball. It takes practice. It really does. It really takes practice and some skill, right? You have to say the right things. You have to
Mm-hmm.
touch her in the right way. You have to look
Mm-hmm.
at her in the right way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? And do you know what? Years ago, probably going back, 12 or so years ago, I had some friends that did. It must have been a course, like a course for dudes, basically on how to hit on women. And tell me if you're across this. I don't know if I'm like breaking bro code by like announcing this worldwide, but it was like if you neg a woman. Do you know what negging is?
No, what's that?
So negging is where like you give her a compliment, but then you say something negative about her. So it's like, oh, I love your outfit, but those shoes don't go. And then she's got to feel as though she'd be like, oh my God, thank you so much for telling me. Or like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know that. Like, what would you think that I should wear instead? Or so, like providing like giving almost like breadcrumbing, like
Yeah.
giving her a bit and then like giving her a negative so she doesn't think that she's all that. So then she wants to chase you because it's like, oh, I'm into you, but I'm not fully into you. Like that shit is vile to me. Like I couldn't think of anything worse than like someone like giving me like building me up and then like pulling me down because they think that I'm going to be attracted to that. I mean, I play probably in a very different field to a lot of people, but it's just, I mean, that is vile to me.
That's wrong. I think that's
Mm.
completely wrong for any man, and for any of you male listeners. Listen, guys, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah, don't be a dick.
Don't be a
That's
dick. Compliment. Don't ever bring a girl down, right?
yeah,
Especially when it comes to her shoes.
right. I do you know how much we spend on shoes?
Yeah, exactly. No, you men should always be complimentary to women. Always
Mm,
compliment, right?
mm.
But here's the
Do you,
thing, though. Oh, sorry.
yes.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you feel as though do men like it being transactional? So if say for example you gave me a compliment and then I shot a compliment back, is that something that you're like, oh, that feels nice, or you're like, oh, she can't receive my compliment because she's just made it transactional, she can't receive it wholeheartedly?
Okay, let's role play with that, right?
Okay.
Jen, I love your hair. Looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I just had it done last week and your hair's looking great today. Have you had it cut as well?
No, actually, I haven't. Cut.
Like it's so scripted, like it's so funny, isn't it? But like it if I can receive a compliment, do you know what I mean? Like I've done work around like being in my feminine to receive and receiving compliments. Usually I'm like, wow, thank you so much.
Yeah.
But when it's made transactional, like is a guy essentially looking for that transaction of it coming back?
Not really, not really. But you also, if I may piggyback on this, do
Mm.
you really like compliments? Like, can I ask you truthfully? Like, if tomorrow you're walking down to grab your coffee and a guy looks at you and says, "Sorry, you look very pretty today." Are you gonna really like take that compliment like to heart, or are you gonna think this guy's a fucking cheeseball?
Honestly, depending on his energy that goes with it.
Uh-huh.
It's all about the energy, because if I can feel from him that he just genuinely wants to give me a compliment, I'm going to be like, wow, thank you so much, that's so nice to receive. But if he's just like, if he sort of says it in a way where it's almost like I'm uncomfortable with it and I can feel that level of discomfort, like my intuition, like my body's a pretty fucking good radar of this shit, like I've worked on it for a long time, and so I can genuinely feel it. If he gives me a compliment, I'm going to receive, I'm going to say thank you so much, but I'm not going to give him any sort of energy back that's like, wow, I'm really open to receiving more from you, what have you got?
Okay. What about a first date though? What about you're on a date with a guy and
Mm-hmm.
he says, "Jen, you look beautiful tonight." Do you really think that's genuine, or think he's trying to get into your pants?
Good question. I think again it comes down to energy. However, if we're on a date, then we're probably like, if, depending on how we met. If we've just met online and it's like a very first date, generally there has to be some kind of like you kind of future predict. You know, when you agree to go on a date with someone, you know, could I hold a conversation with this person? Could I see myself kissing them? Could I see myself having sex with them? Could I see myself having a life with them? Essentially,
Mhm.
the boxes that you want to tick. So I guess you kind of already like pre-thought about these things. Would you agree?
All on the first date? Are you thinking all that all on the first
Oh
date?
yeah, I'm not wasting my time
Really?
on a second date. If I'm like, I mean, energy check is like essentially the first step of a first date, to check if the vibe is there to continue dating. But
Yeah.
I'm already asking myself the question like, does this person meet these things, and not saying I want to, pursue that straight away. But it's like, okay, would it lead to a second date if if I enjoy being in their energy? Can they hold conversation, and ask me questions, bounce the conversation backwards and forwards? Can they be in silence without being awkward for a few moments as well? What are they like around other people? So if we go for a drink somewhere, like what are they like towards, the waiter? What are they like toward, like, do they pull my chair out for me? Do they open car doors if we're going in the same car, or the, door to a restaurant or whatever? You're kind of sizing them up. Like, and I think women do that. And I think it's different for me. Maybe it's an age thing. So I'm 37. I've got 2 kids. I'm not here to waste my time. Like, I'm not looking to settle down. I'm not looking for, another baby daddy. Like, I feel like I've got time on my side because I'm not in a rush for anything. So for me, dating has been like, okay, cool. If you can add value to my life, great. We'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
But, I'm definitely thinking to myself, okay, I've got very limited amount of time in my life. Is there enough value in this exchange for me to want to continue seeing you because I see you ticking these particular boxes that I want ticked?
But here's what I hear though a lot is I hear like a couple and I'll ask them, how'd you guys meet? And I actually have this one couple who I actually asked them, how'd you guys meet? Just curious. And they said, well, we met online. But here's the thing though, they went on one date and it was horrible. Both of them agreed it was the worst date ever. Fast forward 6 months later, he actually reached out to her. And here they are dating. They've been dating for 3 years. Like, so it's the
Wow.
question is like, can you really judge all that on the first date, right? Because there's a lot of pressure on the first date.
Mm.
There's a ton of pressure,
I
right?
think you've got to have an idea of, like, the first date. Like, I'm not going to, size a man up on a first date to be like, are you, a future ex-husband? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you a potential life partner? It's like, okay, do I want to continue engaging with you enough? Could I see myself, having more with you? Do you bring enough value? And sure, like, first dates can be awkward as fuck. If you've met online, it is so, like, it's a bit icky sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, it's a bit
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, we've got to do this thing. But we're all doing it. Anyone that's, dated someone online, we're all doing it. So we all just have to get used to the ick, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of expected that it's basically an energy check to check on the energy to see if you want to, continue going down that path with someone. And yeah, for sure. Like, there's boxes that have got to be ticked, because if I'm not feeling it with someone, if I genuinely know on the first date that it's not going to go anywhere, I would make the call. If I felt as though, look, I think there's something, but I feel like there was some awkwardness there, but I really want to keep talking to this person. They provided some value. I was able to provide some value to them. We shared laughs. We shared, really intelligent conversation, whatever the thing is. Let's go again, and let's just, make it a bit more of a relaxed environment. We've got through the ick of the first one. We've potentially joked about it being a bit icky for the first one.
Right.
What more is there? So I think there has to be some level of discernment on the first date to know, whether you want to keep going there, because I'm certainly not made of time.
Sure.
It's not something I can be like, oh, I can just go out dating every night of the week and like every Saturday morning for brunch, because I just don't have that availability.
Yeah. But here's the one thing that I remember she told me is that even though we didn't talk for 6 months, when he reached out to me the second time, he says, can we start all over again? Right. Because I
Mm.
think that she knew what she was getting herself into on the first date because they had about a couple hours to get to know each other. But I think that the second date after 6 months ultimately made her question, wait a minute, is this really the same guy? Because here I was putting up this front this whole entire time, but now like the walls are down. Like this guy is totally my guy. And here they are happily. I think they're about to get married in, oh shit, we're in March. So I think next week is their actual wedding in Cabo.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's
So
awesome. Do you think that, like, do you reckon that's like an anomaly? Like, do you think that happens regularly, or in your experience? Like, tell us about what it looks like for you. Are you actively dating? Are you on dating apps? Do you just hit on stewardesses and hope for the best when you're flying back from Denver? Like, what?
it,
Tell us
it,
the
it's
process.
it's all about those freaking flyer miles, like come on. I got an angle here. No, I'm just kidding. No, I to be honest, and just for your listeners to know, I'm not that kind of guy that likes to hit on people randomly. I'm not that kind of guy, but it just happened to be like there's something that just I was compelled to say something to her, right? And this goes about the practice, but but to answer your question, I am dating. I am looking to find one, but unfortunately, it just hasn't happened. But I'm patient, and I think that's the key word is you got to be patient, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know everyone's got a different style of dating, but mine is more relaxed now because I've done dating for a long fucking time, right? And I'm not saying I'm an expert, and I'm not saying the 5 ways of Shervin's dating process. I'm not saying that because everyone's got a different way. But for me, I have patience. I'm not in any rush.
Mm-hmm.
When I go on a first date, I have zero expectations, zero. Right. So what I'm going to say, and I don't want you to judge me at all. There's been a lot of first dates to where bullseye. I'm
Yeah.
scoring. We're making out. We're going home. I have a one night stand. Okay, that happens, right? There are also
Mm-hmm.
some dates where I've had some amazing conversations with women, and I'm like, let's carry this on to a second date. Fast forward, we get to the second date, and unfortunately, just it's not what the first date promised me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, the first dates, no one really passes the first date to get to number two. The second
Mm.
round is always the hardest. And when you do get to the second round, you're like, I wish I was back to round one again. Because I feel like there's a different
Interesting.
style, there's a different type of energy.
It's true, and I think it comes down to each individual person as well,
Yeah.
because I like for me, it's interesting that you brought up, if you're hooking up with someone on the first date, So for me, like if there is like, I think I don't have a general rule of thumb, but say for example, like date 1 to 3, if I genuinely like someone, I wouldn't sleep with them in that time. Like I just wouldn't. But if I was
Yes.
like, we could have some fun here, there's definitely some chemistry, and I don't see it going anywhere. Sure, I'll sleep with them. I mean, everyone loves sex as long as we're practicing safe sex and everyone's happy and everyone has an orgasm. Like it's all well and good. Like we're adults
Mm-hmm.
here. But if I genuinely like someone, I want to take the time to get to know them and not necessarily jump straight into bed with them. Is that the same kind of thing? Like, is that what you experience too, or do you just kind of follow like, oh yeah, this feels good, she feels good, like it's going down the path on the first date of we're going to go back to her place or my place, let's do it kind of thing?
Yeah. Gosh, that is a $1 million question, right? And again, like how I answer that, I got to be careful about that because again, I'm not a pig at all. I am a man. I'm going to tell you that truthfully. I'm a visual man. I love women. I respect the hell out of women. But if there happens to be where we're both having some fun together and she's accepting and I'm accepting, great. Let's have fun with it, right?
Mm,
But I think there's also an agreement with her and I when we do that is that we kind of both know this is not going to go anywhere after this because of like you said is that if you really truly really like that person you're going to hold out for as long as you can. But I think for her and I during that time I think we're just like you know what we're both human, we both have things that we need to get rid of, we've got needs, and I
mhm,
think we both helped each other out with that, and I think we had a mutual agreement to where this was fun but
mhm.
we're not gonna make it together.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for your honesty. What about what about dating but then having a side of friends with benefits? Is that ever a path that you've gone
No,
down?
no. And I actually am a monogamous person. Believe it or not, you probably think that's crazy, but I am a one woman guy. I really
Mm,
am. I've seen the aftermath of what my dad did to my mom. Um, and I won't go into detail about my marriage, but there was some adultery. And
mm,
when I see the great people who get hurt by that, like my mom, like myself, like friends and family, I told myself, I said, this is not how I roll. I am a one woman guy and I want to find one woman and I want that to last forever. And I've been faithful to every woman I've dated without any
mm,
question. When I tell a woman that I love them and I
mm,
worship them. But to answer your question, I'm not a fan of that. I believe that there's a lot of polyamory,
mhm,
about people are doing that. That's like the new thing now. And I don't,
mhm,
if you're into that, that's fine. I don't think that that's something that I would ever actually let me rephrase that. I would never want to practice that
mm,
because that kind of tells me that maybe I'm not good enough, so she wants to go sleep around with other guys. and maybe she's not good enough, so I want to sleep with other girls. I just don't feel that that's a true relationship. I just feel like that's kind of friends with benefits bullshit. What do you
Mm.
think about that?
I I'm monogamous myself, and I've had friends that have definitely played in the polyamory space. Some have just been in sort of fresh relationships, and that's sort of how they relate across the board. And then I know people that have been in like a 16-year marriage and then opened it up to poly, and watching it was such a shit show that I was like, I am more monogamous now watching the shit show that you're going through, trying to find yourself and what it is that you desire in a poly dynamic.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting because I think from a biological perspective, Shervin, I think women are generally monogamous and men are called to more non-monogamous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a conscious choice. Like no relationship is ever going to be perfect, and I think it's always going to take work. And I think yes, after years, people get bored, people get like life has challenges, and then you get worn down if you're having certain number of fights, or if you're desiring something that your partner's not open to giving you or doesn't know how, or you don't have the time together to explore certain things, and it feels exciting and adventurous to go and seek it elsewhere. Like these things do happen. It fucking sucks, and it happens.
Yeah.
And I think it's I think it takes work to stay in a long-term monogamous relationship and find what it is that you desire within that space with your partner. And I also know through speaking with people who are open to conscious relating, and polyamory really works for them, is because they feel as though they want to be in the fullest expression of themselves with multiple people, because one person doesn't need to be the person that gives them all, that they can spread it around. And I think it's perhaps maybe different wiring around something. I don't know if one person can change their mind from one or the other. And I think, two people, you and I, talking about monogamous people talking about monogamy, like, yeah, we're on board. However, someone that's, really thriving in the poly space through doing it through ethical non-monogamy, through having really like wide open, crystal clear, conscious communication with their partners, to be like, cool, this is where I'm at, this is what I desire. But I also feel poly is width and not depth. So I
Mm.
feel it's like a field where it's like there's so many players involved, but none of them get the full depth of that particular person. And I think underneath all of that is a deep-seated fear of being seen, perhaps, or fear of commitment. I've noticed is a big one as well in people that engage in poly. We all have our stuff. There's always something underlying,
Right.
in all of those things.
Well, and I don't want people to say, "Oh, it's so hard to be monogamous." I don't believe that shit as an excuse. Hard
Mm,
is like driving in a car and on a freeway with like tons of people, and you got a 16-year-old who's a first-time driver behind you, and you got an old grandma who's right behind you or next to you, or you got a truck in front of you. That's hard. It's hard to maneuver through traffic, right? Or trying to solve a very hard math equation. That's fucking hard. Or trying to
mhm,
come up with the cure for HIV. That's fucking hard. But to be monogamous, are you fucking kidding me? You're telling me that is hard to do in life? Really? Really? You're seriously gonna tell me that it's hard to be committed to one person forever? What does that
mhm,
tell you about a person? Right? What does that tell you about that person's integrity of life? Tell me what
mm,
is easy to you in life now? What exactly do you look forward to in life? What challenges do you think are acceptable to you? I just feel like it's just a cop out. It's
mm,
such an easy thing. Is if I say I love you, I love you. I'm with you.
mm,
My heart is yours, right? So don't tell me that it's fucking hard.
mm.
You know, that just really pisses me off when I hear that. Sorry,
I
I
no,
got
I totally agree, and I want to explore this a little bit deeper because,
yeah,
say for example, when two people get together, let's just call the honeymoon period like the first year, like everything's great, like the sex is phenomenal, you're excited, you're passionate, you're making
yes,
plans together, you're doing things that you haven't done with this person. And say for example, you get 15 years down the track, and you've done a lot of growth work, you found yourself, and this person's like almost gone backwards in the other way. And they're like, do you know what? I just want to be a couch potato. I don't want to do anything. I'm really over this. Or perhaps there's been something around health that's come up, or perhaps, there's division there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I truly feel as though committing to a relationship is deciding that you will show up to that person's funeral over and over again for the version of them that once existed that's no longer going to exist.
Mm.
And I think that in the space of a conscious relationship is a decision that that couple gets to make together, because you've got to agree that you're not going to be the same people that you were in that honeymoon phase, in those first few months or that year where everything is exciting and passionate. It's like, hang on, we do have to get down to the nitty gritty. And I think that's the hard part. I think that's what, hard, easy, good, bad, it's all subjective, right? So your version of hard is going to be different to my version of hard.
Right.
Um, but when I think of something hard, it's like being with someone who's no longer on the same page as me, let alone in the same chapter of the same book on the same bookshelf.
Okay. So
We started out.
how do we get on the same page, right? Like, can two people who are sharing a relationship together, if one of them starts to go left, how can we get that person to also maneuver in the same direction, right? How can that person tell that person respectfully, like, honey, don't touch me that way during sex, right? I mean, let's use sex as an example, because that's an ultimate
Mm-hmm.
example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that it feels good in the beginning, right, during the honeymoon phase, like you said, but after a while, if she's not liking this certain position, or if you're not liking the way she's touching you or licking you, how can you respectfully tell that person, let's change the course of action right now? That way we don't have any disruption a year from now. That way I'm not sitting on the couch eating potato chips on our third anniversary while you're wearing sexy lingerie, right? Keep that fire going. How
Mm-hmm.
do we keep that fire going? And how is there a way that we can communicate with each other respectfully, right? Instead of ridiculing our partner.
And you said the word like it's conscious communication. And I think this is like, it's so important. Like, communication is like one of my highest values in a relationship. And
Mm.
I mean, I'm naturally a communicator anyway. I literally talk all day, every day. And I have ways in which I can communicate in a very like strategic and nourishing way. And I think it's about knowing each other's communication styles. And it's not necessarily just about words. If someone is feeling like they're not seen or heard, they're not necessarily going to use their words. They're going to use body language. They're going to find ways in which to pull back and shut down and turn away from that person. And so it's about understanding how your partner communicates beyond just words, understanding that, people do change, desires change, ways of receiving pleasure, like you were just talking about with sex, like that does change.
Mhm.
And it's about knowing that you can sit down and have an open communication where it doesn't mean that one person is, has to become a victim. And it's like, well, I can't do anything right because I'm bringing up this topic with you. It's going, hey, I really enjoy this, but can we explore that? Or I really want to bring something up about how I'm feeling. And generally, I would say, I do this. I mean, this is across the board. So this happens with my children. And
Mhm.
it's like, I really want to acknowledge X, and I really want to say Y as well. Or obviously, like, pre-framing it. If I have to ask someone a question, or if I want to bring up a topic that I know is probably going to be quite sensitive, I will always ask, are you open to having a conversation about this now?
Yeah.
Are you open to hearing what I have to say about this now? Because they're in a space, if my partner was to come home at the end of the day, and if he's had a shit of a day, and I'm just like, can you not go down on me that way anymore? You know what I mean? Like, he's already had a shit day, and then I'm throwing something that's like completely off center for him. And he's like, I can't do fucking anything right around here. I've just had a shit of a day at work. You're coming
Mhm.
to me with this. I'm fucking tired. And that's where it breaks down. But if I was to say to him, hey, how was your day? It was shit. I'm like, okay, look, hey, I've got some stuff that I want to talk to you about, but I understand it might not be the best time for you. Are you open to hearing what I have to say? Or can we, maybe make a time for another time to have a chat about some stuff? And he's going to go, oh my God, thank you so much for asking. Let me go have a shower. can you make me a cuppa, and then let's meet on the couch in 15 minutes.
Can I
And have a
share a
conversation.
story with you and your listeners? Is that okay?
Absolutely, you can.
Okay.
You got good stories. I like your stories.
This goes back with the lack of thank you. This goes back to the lack of communication, especially in the bedroom. And I hope you guys don't think that I'm like this sex addict fiend who always talks about sex. That's
Oh, we
not it.
do. Oh, and we're here
But
for it, Shervin.
well,
Like, I
thank
mean,
you.
to any of the listeners, like, get onto YouTube and just have a look at what. Sorry, I'm totally like exploiting you right now, but like, go and have a look at what Shervin looks like, and you'll see why he pulls women.
Oh, you're so sweet. I love it. Thank you. But no, this was the catalyst to the heartbreak. Is it was New Year's Eve of 2021, and I was upstairs with my ex girlfriend in the bedroom having sex, and the feeling was mutual, right? I mean, you can feel like she was moaning, I was moaning, because again, you're in love, you're feeling that bond together. But something happened after she had an orgasm, right?
In inverted commas, so it wasn't real.
I was something in my heart, something in my mind, some instinct told me something is not right now.
Right.
So after I orgasmed, I looked at her while she was laying down. I said, did you come? Did you orgasm?" And she said, and you can see her face in the darkness too, like because I can feel there's something. Like I said, there's some type of energy that was not welcoming. I said, "Did you orgasm?" And she said, "No, it didn't even do it for me." When I heard that, Jen,
Hmm.
not only did my heart break, but my dick felt like it was useless.
Mm.
For a man to hear that from anyone, especially a woman who loved you, that is probably one of the worst things you can ever hear, right? Because it
Mm.
takes away your dignity as a man, right? So now, not only am I questioning our love, now I'm questioning, was she faking this the whole entire time? Now
Mm.
I'm going backwards again saying, am I a good lover? Am I a good size? You start to question yourself, right? So while she was laying down, I got up, I looked down while she was laying in bed, and I said this, do you still love me? The pause right now, just so you know, is the exact same response that she gave me. So I
Mm.
knew, I was like, there's my answer. So as I was getting better, and this goes back to the recuperation of the aftermath, when I was having sex with a couple women I was dating, it was so hard for me to feel and get back up again, right? To get the blood flowing, to feel like a man again, right? Because the
Mm.
question keeps echoing in your mind, is is this good? Is she really feeling this? Does it feel good to her? Is she faking an
Mm.
orgasm? These questions are just pounding your head. And this goes with every partner I've had ever since the breakup. It's always questioning my mind. Am I a good lover? Am I doing the right things? Right.
Mm.
But I can truthfully tell you is I remember real quick here. I told this one girl when we were dating, we went to go see a movie. I remember, I went to go see a movie. I'm trying to remember what the name of the movie was. It was a shitty movie, by the way. We came back to my house and we started to make out, and then we were getting into the bedroom, and I literally started crying.
Oh.
And she was a sexy mom, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not." So I told her exactly what was going on, and she says, "Just so you know, you are perfect in every way possible, especially down there. So don't let that girl ruin what's in front of you right now." So
Mm.
guess what happened? I got hard.
Get the best
I
sex.
got
Yeah.
hard, and I was like, it's just a mental game, you know. But the point I was trying to make, the point I'm trying to make is that there was just a lot of lack of communication, right? So
Mm.
going back to what I was saying is that if your partner goes left, go left with them, but find out ways of making it better, right? Like I wish that breakup could have been better, but it wasn't, right? I
Mm.
wish that I could have given her an orgasm, but I didn't, right? So the point I'm trying to make is communicate with that person, communicate with your partner, but do it
Mm.
in a respectful manner, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's a big one, isn't it? And circling back to that, like that's a big thing for a lot of men when it comes to erectile dysfunction is there's not actually
mhm,
anything physically wrong.
right.
It's a mental thing. It's about being in your head. Someone has said something, or you've had a thought about something, or there is a belief that's sitting inside there somewhere that says, I'm not a good lover. She's not enjoying this. She's going to fake it. It's taking too long. Like there's all of these things. And of course, I mean, like if you're ruminating on that, your dick's not like, whoa, let's get in there. It's like, let's get the fuck out of here. This is not doing it for me. And yes, it comes down like so much to communication and to just understanding and exploring those parts of yourselves as to why you're wired that way. And I mean, I think it's really beautiful to that woman that said that to you, because that's obviously very healing for you as well,
Yeah.
not only just physically, but emotionally, mentally as well. Cause it's like, oh, okay, cool. So this other chick, she broke my heart. She had it, she had it wrong essentially. In her view of the world, that's what was real for her, but it doesn't make it, across the board that, you're a terrible lover.
Right. And I remember I went to go see a urologist, and when I told him exactly why I was here, he's like, really? He's like, you're fine, man. He's like, you have nothing to worry about, buddy. It's all in your head. He started laughing. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at it, but you're fine. He said, you're totally fine. And,
Yeah.
even though I am over 40 years old, age is not the factor, by the way, just so you know.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
not. Yeah. The urologist was a very well renowned urologist, said it's not. Don't worry about the age. He said it's all in your head, my friend.
It's true. Did you see a urologist just for that? Or did you think there was something wrong? Like, is that as far as you went?
No, I went. Yeah, I went to go see a urologist for that reason because I want to get checked out. I was really concerned,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I was like, shit, maybe I am like horrible. Maybe I'm not big enough. It's just, again, the questions start to echo in your mind, and they start
Mm,
to get worse and worse. But no,
hmm.
I'm glad, and actually this goes for a lot of male listeners, is if you are having doubts, if you think there's something wrong, go see a urologist, right? And they'll help you. They really will. Whether or not it's in your head, or if it's, you think it's age, go see a urologist for sure.
Yeah, no, I can definitely attest to men in their 40s. It's not their age. It's,
It's
it's
yeah, yeah,
definitely in their
yeah,
head. And look, it comes down to a healthy lifestyle as well. Like there are definitely going to be factors involved,
right,
but yeah, definitely. It's such a big part of it is the inner work.
100%.
100%. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I could probably keep talking to you for the rest of the day. In fact, if you'd been on time for the interview, we could have kept talking for
Oh,
another half an hour. Oh,
ooh,
shots
I
fired.
well deserved. Yep, that's my fault.
Do you know what? Actually, I want to ask you one question I
Sure,
always ask all of my guests. To you, what is the meaning of life?
is to be unselfish. It's to be
Mm,
selfless.
mm. How does that show up for you?
The result of my kids is
Mm,
let them know that morning, day, happy, sad, holidays, fevers, your daddy's here forever. I'm always with you, and you'll always be loved. And I think love, when you tell someone that you love them, like when you truly tell them that you love them, especially your kids, is just an energy. There's just a feeling that you get when you tell them that. And I can't
mm,
wait to say that to the next woman that's going to come into my life, right?
mm.
So I think being selfless is by far one of my key aspects that I love about being alive.
I love that. I love that. We've obviously dived into a lot of topics here today. So we've talked not only about erectile dysfunction, but we have talked about dating, hitting on stewards and women at the servo. Um,
Yes.
there's definitely a lot, and I'd love to have you back on for another chat at some stage because not only do I love your stories, but it's you are so open with a lot of things, which is really cool. What is some like wisdom that you would like to impart based on everything that we've spoken about today? Like if our listeners like need to just have this summed up, what's some wisdom, like a wisdom bomb from Shervin?
Here it comes. I'm just kidding. I think truthfully, be yourself. And I know it's very cliche. Be yourself, be genuine. And this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, is that when you are going through a heartbreak, please, please, please remind yourself that you are not alone. and eventually you will become a heartbreak survivor.
I love that. You're amazing.
You're
Now,
amazing.
thank you, received. For any of the women listening in Orange County, how do they get a date with you? No, I'm joking.
I would love that. Yeah, bring it on. I'm always available to meet. I am always.
What is it? What is it ultimately that you're looking for?
Okay, so you're gonna laugh when you hear this. So when I was a kid, I was a very chubby, unpopular kid in high school, right? And I remember my freshman year, I had this huge crush on this girl named Kim Schaff. She was 6'2" volleyball player. I was in love with her, Jen. So in a way, and I hate to say the height factor because I know I always say like fuck height because every woman is always asking the guy to please be tall on the dating apps. It's not a necessity, just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, but I've always wanted to be with a girl like Kim Schaff, like 6'2", blonde. I love tall women. I'm obsessed with women taller than me.
How tall are you?
Tall enough.
Are you taller than 6'2" then?
Here, all right, look at me. Tell me how tall you think I am.
I would say probably 6'5", 6'6".
Ah, damn it. That hurts.
Oh no! Is it the other? Is it the other way?
I'm 5'10".
Okay.
Oh, see, oh my God, you had that look. You had that look.
I have never met a guy that has wanted a taller woman.
Oh, I love taller women.
I've never ever met a guy that has said I love women. That's what threw me. That was the face. 100% promise you that. Yeah. Wow. What? Okay. And so how do you? I know that we kind of wrap this up, but let's open it back up again for 5 minutes. I've got so many questions because I'm the opposite. So I'm 5'6.5". I kind of used to say 5'7". I'm like, no, I can get away with 5'6" because I'm halfway between. But I've always gone for taller men. And I've like discounted anyone below 6 foot because I'm like, no, I want them to be taller. And then I'm like, hang on, I'm cutting out a massive fucking, part of the population here with something that we can't help. Like height, we cannot help. It's not something we would be like, oh, I can't, I can just change this. Like it's not even possible, right? And so for me, it's like, okay, I like the idea of being with a taller guy. It's not the be all and end all, but how does it go for guys that like generally like guys that I meet want shorter women? I have never ever come across an anomaly that you are.
By the way, on the next episode we have, I need to tell you in the audience about the stories of height because I have so many stories that will blow everyone's fucking mind to where they're like, wait a minute, hold on. Now they're gonna start second guessing height, especially when it comes to men.
Yes, can we do that? Because I've had this conversation with so many people. Okay,
Deal.
I'm going to book you in. I love you. So tell me. So you would prefer taller women?
I would. Yes,
or
I prefer.
It's because of the high school chick that was like that set you up from an early age in your imprinting ages.
Yeah, she did it to me. Like she hit me hard. I was like, I want a girl like that. I want a tall volleyball player who, I have no problem dating taller women.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that because that's blown my mind. Of all the things that we've spoken about today, I've taken away the height thing. It's funny because like the guy that I'm with, like he's I think 5'10" or 5'11", and that's like a lot shorter than what I just genuinely used to in the last little while. And it's not an issue. Do you know what I mean? When you really like someone, it's not an issue. You're like, okay, cool, it's fine. I'll just get new heels if I don't want to be taller than you when we go out, kind of thing.
Oh my God. I have another story. I have to. This is good. We have to do another episode because I have some really.
We're just gonna book this in. It's happening. You guys heard it here first. It is happening. We are going to do a whole session on height. Like, I mean, tell me that's not enlightening because all of our stories are about the enlightened journey of life. Like this. Did you not hear the fucking awakening I just had when we had that conversation?
I love it.
I do have to wrap this up though. I'm really, really conscious of the time and I just want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. Shervin, you've been fucking amazing. We knew that we were going to have some fun. We said we like pre-framed this, like we were going to have some fun and we had some fun. You agree?
You're amazing, Jen. I really can't thank you enough for having me on here tonight. Really, really appreciate it, girl.
Thanks, Shervin.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope you love the Enlightened podcast, and the biggest compliment you can give me is subscribing to this podcast, sharing it, and leaving a rating and review. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is @JenHamiltonOfficial, and the podcast handle is enlightened_podcast. You can also find the video version on YouTube on my channel. Just search Enlightened and don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a beautiful day and enjoy living the enlightened journey of life.